He's going to talk, you can see the title about poultry is a champion. I don't think that there are so many other people that can talk about this topic in depth as much as Theo, because he has experience in the whole value chain of chickens. So his background is engineering, not meat science, but we still welcome you, Theo. Theo was the CEO of Stork. Stork, is one of the major equipment manufacturing for poultry processing plants. So that's the whole primary and secondary processing. Theo knows in and out. Later on, he also worked for Vencomatic. So he was exposed to the live bird sections there. So, and now he's a partner in a software company that is called QF Soft. You will hear more about it. That also deals with integrating the whole data for the production chain. So without further introduction, I would ask Theo to join us.
Thank you, Shai. All welcome. I hope you had a good Liberation Day. I had, I tell you. And I hope that you can stay awake after lunch. That gentleman promised me that he not will snore, so that will be great. So the title of my presentation is Chicken is Champion. And because I really liked the title of the conference really liked it, but I think chicken is under the protein sources really the champion. Why is that? I think 4 very clear reasons for it. This is a forecast of the Rabobank. The Rabobank brings out every year forecast what will happen with the several protein sources. And when you see from the graph, every 10 years, there is 20% more poultry processing. 20% every 10 years. And the forecast is that will go on for several decades. So we can expect that poultry keeps on growing on a really rapid scale. Why is that? That's because poultry is a very efficient feed converter. Poultry 1.7 kilos of feed, you put in the chicken, you get 1 kilo of meat. Much more efficient than pork and much more efficient than cattle. Only fish is more efficient, but fish has 2 big disadvantages. One is that fish these are predators, so they need fish meal. So the feed is roughly 5 times more expensive than chicken feed, which diet is corn and soya. And the second big drawback of fish is that the chicken grows in 7 weeks to 2.5 kilos. A salmon grows in 3 years to 4 or 5 kilos. So that means that finally, when you look to produce 1 kilo of meat, fish is much more expensive. I don't know exactly the figures, but it's at least 50% more expensive than producing chicken meat. So when you look then finally to the carbon footprint, chicken is also the best when you look to the carbon footprint compared to pork, fish, and there you see it also salmon. You see over here, I think, it should work like this. Here's salmon. You see that salmon has a much higher carbon footprint. I know one guy, I will come to it later. He says, I'm convinced that I can produce chicken meat with the same carbon footprint as soya. That's my goal. And I'm getting there and I am close. That would be, of course, a tremendous step what you make then. Now, why do we eat chicken? Why do we like chicken? There are 2 very big reasons why we like chicken. First one is it's healthy. It's low fat. That's why we like chicken. The second reason is it has no taste. No taste, because it's a taste carrier. So you can make from chicken everything. It's a very versatile protein. So you can make sweet and sour. Then you have a Chinese type of product, but you can also make a Latin type of product. That's the great thing of chicken. that it's such a versatile protein. How do we handle the chicken chain? We start on the breeder side. We produce eggs. Eggs go to the hatchery. In the hatchery, you have basically two steps, 18 days in the setter. Then the eggs go 3 days to the hatcher. Then 1 day old chicks come out, and the 1 day old chicks go to the broiler farm. Broiler grows the chicken to 2.5 kilos in 6-7 weeks, roughly. And then we go to the processing plant and we produce. We produce the products we need for the retailers and the food service companies. And what is typically from this, what I feel is, we plan it like this. So we push it through from the breeder farm to the hatchery, to the broiler farm, and then finally to the processing plant, which is, to our opinion, or in our opinion, the wrong way. You should plan it the other way around. You should not push it, you should pull it. You should look in the processing plant what you need, what are your customers asking for, the retailers and the food service, and depending on what they need, you know what weight, what quality birds they want to have, you plan the whole cycle backwards. And that's, I think, a big change, because at the moment it's really pushing through. So why do we want to do that? It's just generate maximum value. When you want to get the maximum value and that's a big challenge with chicken. Every part of the chicken, you want to have the maximum value. You want to get a good value for your wing. You want to get a good value for your legs. You want to get a good value for your fillet. You cannot say, I want to earn only money with the fillet and the rest, it's almost a waste product. You want to generate a maximum value. And that's not always easy on the processing side. I have myself in the past, I have seen when you look, very often you need to produce fillets. The customer says, I want fillets not heavier than 120 grams. You have a chicken on the shackle which produces 160 grams, then you have a problem. Because you have a fillet which is 20 grams too much or 40 grams too much. What to do then? Then you really have to do a lot to cut it off again and try these 40 grams to sell for a decent price, which you will not. And that's just an example, but for the wings goes the same. Very often KFC says, I want to have wings in this weight range from 80 to 100 grams or whatever. And then you get birds and you don't get these wings or too few wings. So very important what comes into the processing plant is that you exactly know the weight. What is the uniformity of the bird? Is it a small, narrow weight band or is it very wide? It's very important to know and very important to steer on. Another big issue on a processing plant, which you can control much better, where I see always very little attention, that's how long are the birds standing in the processing plant before you hang them on the shackle. You transport the birds from the farmer to the processing plant, and it always takes some time before they are hung on the shackle. And that's a big issue because it can cost you a lot of money. Because when you don't have the birds, you have empty shackles. You have a few hundred people standing there. When they are too long before you hang them, you get a lot of problems. And I want to show that with a very simple graph. If you say I put on that axis the rest time, how long is the container standing in the processing plant before the birds are processed. When I look to meat quality, initially when the birds come in, the meat quality is not good because they are stressed from the transport. Generally, they say, put them 2 hours in the layerage, then they can be calm and then the birds recover before you process them. But when you let them too long there, they will dry out. They will have moisture loss because they have no feed and no drink. So what you see in quality is that it initially goes up, so improves, but after 2 hours, it also goes down again. So somewhere there's an optimum of 2 hours resting there, then hang them. When you look to moisture loss, which is of course an economical fact, after 2 hours, you do not lose too much moisture. But after that, the birds start to lose 0.1% on moisture, which you think, well, what is 0.1? That's nothing. That's a lot of money. And when you do 200,000 birds a day, 2.5 kilos, just make a calculation. And then this one, then you lose, when I would hang it instead of 2 hours, 3 hours, I lose 100,000 euro per year just on moisture loss. So it's very critical to manage that very well. It's not done always very well in poultry processing plants because they don't have the tool for that, for the planning, because it's pretty complicated. The broiler farm. What can I say about the broiler farm? This is the buzzword now. I think everybody is using in the broiler farm. We're going to help the broiler farmers by big data, by analysis, and then we're going to give them advice. What I see until now is, it looks like this almost. I never understand how a pilot gets out of this. But that's what we're also doing to the broiler farmers. I myself am partly owner of a broiler farm, and when I look to our farmer, we do not find connection with him. He's a young guy, he's 32 years old, but he's just overwhelmed. He has all to put in, and he's not seeing things back. So I think with big data, big issue is less is more, I'm sure. And that's what our challenge is. How can we offer it to the broiler farmer that it's for him easy to maintain and easy, and tools that he can have easy access to what he should do. In broiler farming, yeah, I am a strong believer on-farm hatching, which has been developed in Holland. I'm a very strong believer in that, because it has been proven that it's just a better way to grow broilers. This is a research done here in Wageningen. There's Ad Kemps, but he's not here now. But research where you can see the green bars. This is the development of the intestines from a 1-day-old chick when they have early feed and drink, or the traditional way of hatching, a 3-day hatching in a hatchery. You can see the green bars are the intestine development lengths of the early fed chick, and the gray bars are the traditional way of hatched. And you see from this graph, they have just a better developed intestines, which seems very logic. And when sometimes you have a hatching window of 3 days, the bird who comes out the first day has 2 days, no eat, no drink. You can imagine that their development of the intestines is not as it should be. And another research that has been done is the bursa development. The bursa is an organ which produces the antibodies, and the dotted line is the standard way of hatching, and the drawn line is the bursa development for the early fed birds. And you see that the bursa is better developed for the early fed birds. So you will finally end up with birds, 1-day-old chicks, who have a better developed immune system, but also a better developed intestine system. So the birds are stronger and digest better. So I'm convinced that this is the way for the broiler side to go on. I'm a little bit disappointed how slow it's going into the market. There are a lot of farmers now using it, but not maybe 10–20% in Europe, and that's all. And it's already in the market at least 5–6 years. I'm a little bit surprised how slow that goes. And I think it's a little bit because of the conservatism in the broiler farming. very difficult discussion, I personally think, is in Holland around the welfare of birds. I think you should always have a balance between welfare, economics, sustainability. I think in Holland at the moment, we are totally to the welfare side. We are coming up each time with new concepts. New concept is slow growing birds, less birds per square meter. Birds should go outside. So there's a lot of improvement on the welfare side. At least that's what is assumed. But I think that improvement on the welfare side is not well enough underlined by research. I think I want to show you a small video. No, the text is not going, but okay. This shows very slow, but this shows a video how you can be manipulated. Your brain and what you think to see and what there is really to see. That's what we have to be careful for. We have to be careful that that is also not happening with us, with all the discussions around animal welfare, sustainability. We should base it on data. We should not only base it on emotions, because you can see here how emotions and your brain can trick you. Because I think in the chicken industry, I said to you, we have 4 main reasons why chicken is the best. This we are throwing away. Because we go to the slow growing birds, less birds per square meter. So we decide to go to a feed conversion from 1.5 to 2. So you go back to 2. Whereas we are capable to run or to grow chicken with a feed conversion of 1.5. It's a big advantage which we are throwing away. Is it for the good reasoning? I doubt. We also throw away, of course, the sustainability advantage. Because when our feed conversion goes down, birds have to walk outside, less birds per square meter. Our sustainability is, of course, will go down, and we will shift to the worst side of the sustainability carbon footprint. And I think there's one research I saw which is showing that very well. There's a research done here in Wageningen. It shows on the axis, they made here an indicator for the welfare. So they try to have an objective indicator for welfare to look to foot laces, to breast blisters. And on the horizontal axis, you see the cost for 1 kilo live bird. And I think the 2 last dots are very good. They are illustrating something very clearly. These 2 dots, that's whereas GWS, that is what the chickens are nowadays. And in Holland, we will go in 23. The retailers have said, we go to the Beter Leven 1-star concept. And from this, you see that there is hardly any improvement in welfare, but there is roughly a 20 to 30% raise in cost. Because it's a slower growing bird, less birds per square meter. So there are a lot of researchers here. I really urge the researchers, let's come up with objective measures. Let's get the arguments against the NGOs, because I feel at the moment we are pushed by the NGOs, not based on real data where we should go. And I think it's very pity that we throw away such a big sustainability issue. And it's a big fight we have to do, I think, to maintain the big advantages we have as chicken industry. Hatchery, and the hatchery used to be a very simple process. What we did in the hatchery, we put the eggs in the setter, 18 days, we take them out, we push them to the hatcher, 3 days, and then one day chicks came out. But in the hatchery, there have been a lot of innovations, really a lot of innovations. Vaccination and over-vaccination is available since 5 years. Several producers deliver that. Heartbeat control is available to control in an egg, to measure the heartbeat after the setter. And then you know for sure the egg has a live embryo in it. And the on-farm hatching, what I said before. So it has a big change in the hatchery, where the hatchery is becoming very complicated. It's not anymore a simple process. To really know what you're doing to every egg, does that egg have vaccination and over-vaccination? Is it an egg which goes to the on-farm hatching? So the hatchery is not anymore a very simple process, but very complicated. And there's a big challenge at the moment just to keep track of every single egg, what has happened to the egg. Did you really do the in-over? How long was it stored? Is it a on-farm hatched egg? And it's pretty complicated. And there are a lot of companies now working in the processing side to really get a good hand on that you know what is happening to each egg, which was in the past very simple, very simple. On the breeder farm is maybe the most traditional link in our chain. And the breeder farms, I do not see a lot of changes past 10 years, maybe 10 years. I worked for company Vancomatic. We had a very nice system for breeders. Veranda, we called, was a colony system. And still you see that farmers don't want to change to another system as they are used now to. And the systems they are using now are 20, 25 years on the market. It's very traditional, which is a pity because I think we also can make improvement in that area. For a breeder farmer, always there are two graphs very important: productivity, but it's also, I was in a big project in Mexico. It was an unbelievable hassle to get the data. What is the productivity of the farms? It's not easy. So I think still also when you talk about data, a lot can be done there to improve that. The second important graph is the hatchability. So how many eggs are really fertile and one day old chick is coming out. It was the same story. Very difficult to get these graphs together and knowing exactly what you're doing. A nice development I see is in the farm, looking to the eggs and looking to the quality of the eggs. Is there eggs which is dirty? Is there egg with double yolk? Is there a too small egg or too big egg? That's something which is now in development to do that with cameras. And I think that could be a big step forward because then we are not anymore dependent on the data which the farmer has to deliver manually, but also you could move this activity from the hatchery to the farmer, back to the source, which I think is a much better way to do. At the moment, the quality is defined or looked after in the hatchery when the eggs come in. I think now you could say, okay, I deliver you the eggs and I know exactly what I'm delivering. And you have all the data, of course. You have all the data of the eggs. What are the conclusions? There's one development I really think it's in Holland is a guy wants or family wants to do that, and they slowly go there step by step. They call it the short chain concept. And what they want to do, they want to have on one side the breeders, hatchery, broilers, and the processing plant. Everything on one side, just to be capable to control the hygiene, quality as good as possible, but also to get rid of all the transportation times you have and transportation. And this is the company where I just before mentioned, he is convinced that he could produce proteins for the same carbon footprint as soya. Because he does a lot in reusage of energy, has of course solar panels. Also avoiding all the transportation is a tremendous step forward in the carbon footprint. This is a concept which is slowly developing in Holland, but I am also very much convinced that this could be a good solution for countries where there is a big infrastructure problem. In Africa, Asia, where the infrastructure is not easy, this could be a concept where you could say, okay, it's all on one side and it's no transportation. Now, what our software company, we are really convinced that we are capable to turn planning cycle, as I said in the beginning, so that we really go from a push planning to a pull and not from farm to fork. We want to go from fork to farm. And we feel that with the data, with the planning modules we have available, we are capable to make a big step there. So I'm convinced that with the innovations which are going on, with the innovations we had in the past, that chicken is the champion and will stay the champion. Maybe disappointing for the other protein people, but okay. Thank you for your attention.